The NAIRA swap deadline earlier announced for January 31st, 2023 came with a banger, and there was huge traffic, congestions of human traffic in our various banking halls and, of course, ATM points just to get the new notes and also to dislodge that of the old NAIRA notes in the denomination of 1,000, 200, and, of course, 500. And the extension or 10-day extension of this seems to have brought some relief to Nigerians. But discussing this with me as we look at issues in this direction, starting from my extreme left, I have a social media influencer, human rights activist, a political economist, Ibrahim Momo. Thanks for joining me, Ibrahim.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, distinguished viewers.
And next to him is a lecturer in the University of Benin, an expert, an economist, also articulate in that capacity. We have Dr. Presley Osemigie. Thanks for coming, Presley.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. And good morning, viewers.
All right, let's start with you, Ibrahim. Let's get your viewpoint on how you greeted the extension, the 10-day extension, because we look at the banger effect the deadline of January 31st came with, and it was quite horrible. But how do you greet the 10-day extension? Do you see that as a relief?
Well, in the short term, it is a kind of relief because, like you know, I'm very much around Ekpoma, and one of the things we see there is that there's a kind of a grinding to a halt in the economic situation of that part of the state. I came from Ekpoma on Friday. On that Friday, to buy basic items, people were rejecting. In fact, as of Thursday, the abattoir were non-functional. Because they were not able to get new NAIRA notes, they refused to kill, cows, wow. And then that one goes for using bikes or public transport within that vicinity. So I saw it as a kind of a temporary relief, because what the 10-day cushion, I'll call it, or extension does, is that it brings some kind of respite for the very apprehensive the commoners, the common people, the us, we the people, it brought a kind of relief, because the pressure not to do business trading with the old currency, with the currency that has been faded out, was high, and so that tempo has come down. So the basic thing I see there is that maybe there's a script or a game plan that we are not seeing, because I'm wondering what's the point. Mm-hmm. Because if the CBN governor said 1.9 trillion has been returned to the treasury, to the coffers of the CBN, and it requires only about 900 billion.
That is outside the banking system.
That's still outside the banking system, which it wants to be retrieved. It means that there's a very high, that's about 70%.
Yes. Success
rate.
Which is quite excellent.
Which is commendable. By our standard, from academic background, by our standard, that's an A.
Of course, yes.
So if the bourgeois, so to say, have returned 1.9 trillion, I think Nigeria is a largely informal economy, largely informal. Every sector is still dealing in direct exchange of currency, the legal tender. Direct exchange, whether it is in the market, it's in the malls, it's in the petrol filling stations. Wherever you go to, those, even in the public transport, the transport sector, you are seeing that it is still very basic in terms of the level of economic transaction. So I think that while I commend the CBN for the long-awaited policy, it thought to have done this much earlier, I think that sometimes we have to be much moderate. The idea we get is that they're trying to mop up currency in circulation leading up to the general election. But it's not only politicians that are using the money. In fact, the vast majority, the population of active politicians in Nigeria, they are less than 1%. Nigeria is over 200 million people. Do we have 2 million politicians in Nigeria? We do not have 2 million politicians. 2 million aspirants or candidates in this election. We don't have up to 1% of our population contesting for elections in this country. So if you now, because of the inactions or the misbehavior, with all due respect to them, of less than 1% of the population, you're not putting a vast majority of the populace at risk or on its right. I think that while it is commendable, the CBN may do well to continue what it has done that brought 1.9 trillion in, rather than putting people under unnecessary pressure. That's my initial take on it.
Okay. Let's take your bite on this, Dr. Presley, because we look at the economic advantage in this, because we know fiscal policies go a long way to also affect or impact the economy. Now, we have this where the CBN governor said is to tackle corruption, tackle terrorism, and also withdraw a huge amount of money in trillions that is outside the banking system. Do you see an economic value from what the CBN policy seems to address?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Philip. I think the objective of the CBN governor and the board is very noble and is very nice.
Oh.
Okay, one of the coloration is that it's going to improve, economic growth.
When you say coloration, are you talking about the redesign?
When I mean the beauty of the policy.
Okay, the beauty of the policy
itself.
Okay.
The beauty of the policy.
Okay.
Policy is very nice, very lovely. Number one objective of CBN is to control the circulation of all the volumes of money in circulation, which is very, very important as far as the economy is concerned. Okay. Let's not forget that the currency is our heritage. It goes a long way to show our culture and shows a lot, as far as our nation is concerned. And like I said, if the CBN must effectively, control the volume of money in circulation using the monetary policy, CBN has done well, like I said, to redesign the new, to redesign the old currency to become new one.
Okay, is there any advantage there?
Yes.
In redesigning the old currency to become new?
Yes. Number one advantage is to improve the security of the banknote itself. If you look at the banknote, you see some security feature in it. If they redesign, they will improve that security. That's one.
But some have said that it washes easily, and it seems to be subject to easy counterfeit.
But I have not tried that. I think it's a mere speculation. People are saying that. To me, I have not tested that. And I cannot say categorically here that yes, the money is weak or it's low in quality in terms of texture. But I have no experience that. Not until I test that, then I can be able to say a lot about that.
Okay, now let's, I still have a question for you in that regard. Let's look at the 1.9 trillion naira that the CBN has already said that they've recovered that used to be outside the banking system. Now we have about 900 billion naira outside the banking system. Do you suggest that this extension, this 10-day extension, could bring a better impact in the economy?
Okay, from the...
Or it could stifle the economy? Because just now we heard what Ibrahim said concerning businesses going on a low pedestal. Now, isn't that affecting the economy?
Okay. Now, the volumes of money that have come in is very nice. Like I said, if your design is to attract, currency, that way outside the banking world into the circulation, so that CBN can effectively control and monitor, the volume of money circulation. Now, let me tell you something. With the redesigned NAIRA note, CBN will be able to track, where these volumes of money is going now. Now, like every note has a unique identification number written there. With this, they can be able to track where the money is going through. Assuming, for example, let me give you Bank A, for instance, we're giving a certain serial number. Bank B, we're giving another serial number. Bank C, we're giving another serial number. If a particular serial number, for instance, given to Bank A is no longer in circulation, CBN can effectively monitor where those money has gone to. And from there, they will ask the bank and check each of the withdrawal in each account. That's how to monitor, our currency, leaving the circulation. But bad as it may be, our CBN does not have effective monitoring, system to checkmate, that. That's the reason why he said that about 1.7 or 9 trillion, has effectively, come in. If I was CBN, I will not bother over the 9 billion remaining, because why? The people will not be able to use, that money once, the redesign, take effect. Okay. That means automatically about 9 billion is out, and CBN can
about 1.9 trillion.
That's about 900 billion. Okay. Is out of the system. Then CBN can now, print money now, to cover up for the 9 billion, so that to ensure that the volume of money circulation is intact. Let's also forget the whole essence of this, this policy.
So to cover up for the 900 billion.
Yes.
Now, are you saying that can be ignored?
Like I said, effective dates have been given. Okay. Please bring in your money to the bank. And if CBN have been able to, realized 1.9 trillion. To me, like you said, that was about 70%. That was an A. That's to what extent will CBN, because of about 100 billion, extend, the deadline? But I think the extension of the deadline was not because to even retrieve, the 100 billion still, circulation. I think it's to lessen the burden of the people. Like, for example, as I said yesterday, a bank were no longer giving the old note, just solely the new note. And the new note, some banks were giving 5,000, some banks were giving 2,000, some banks were giving 3,000. But the greatest disadvantage or the economic implication of this is going to stifle the economy. There will be free flow of goods and services. And again, like you said, our economy is largely informal, and a lot of businesses will not flow.
Mostly in the rural areas.
Now, what's the problem with this? Because CBN has refused, to pump in the new notes so that it can flow into the economy. But the CBN can argue, or some experts will argue, that the whole essence of that is to ensure that we go cashless. Cashless policy, that's one. Number two, they want to also, encourage, the NAIRA, the meeting of the NAIRA, so that people can effectively.
I think this conversation would have been good if the rural areas are already captured in internet banking. Now, you can't talk about NAIRA to those who live in the hinterlands.
Mr. Philip, are you aware?
And don't you think all of this could bring about a negative impact on the economy just now?
Thank you. Are you aware that in some northern parts of Nigeria, the CBN staff, CBN said they deploy over 30,000 staff to go about locally, exchanging the old NAIRA note to the new NAIRA note. In other words, these people referred to as in the rural area, they can collect their old NAIRA note and give them and issue them a new NAIRA note without going through the constraints of the bank. Are you aware of that?
Okay.
But in our own part, in our own side, let's come to Edo State specifically where I reside. But in my village, I said, has any of officials of the CBN come to the village? They said no. But the question is, what is happening in Edo State? What is happening? Every policy of government has a way. I don't know. Edo State has a. I don't want to use a language, that I will not be able to. I don't know, coloration. Let me not use that language. If you look at, for instance, let me for an example now. Fare in Lagos is still sold between 198 naira. Fare in Lagos, as of yesterday. But what is happening in Edo State? I don't know.
In fact, I was in Lagos Saturday through Sunday.
Yeah, good.
I saw the price of fuel first hand. I wasn't told. I mentioned to you I was over the weekend.
Of course, yes, you were.
I saw first hand.
Now, what is happening? What is happening in Edo State? I don't know. I don't know. In fact, I cannot economically, decipher what is happening. I don't understand.
All right.
Dynamics of Edo State.
We unravel all of these miseries that you are saying here just now, but we're going to take a short break. Wherein we're going to be having another guest with us to look at this issue. To stay.
TMI, every opinion counts.
While we had a break, we were opportune to be joined by a human rights activist, civil society activist, and the person of Solomon Idiogbe. Good morning, Solomon.
Very good morning, and viewers at home, good morning.
All right, I think we'll be taking a bite of what transpired yesterday on the protest, but that will be after we've done justice to the first topic, which is on the NAIRA swap. Why, before the break, we had Dr. Presley or Semige discussing that. But quickly, let's go to you, Ibrahim Momo. Let's look at the need, because you said just now that there is need for us to guide the policy, to guide the economy, and that what we are experiencing, we seem to be having a negative impact on the economy. Now, let's look at the policy of the CBN in this regard. Some say, well, it's meant to target those who are in the political sphere. Take, for instance, the 2023 election. Others say otherwise. What do you see this policy targeting?
Well, the CBN governor has explicitly averred to the fact that politicians are the ones fighting back, because and then other people also averred to the fact that it amounts to trying to amass wealth, to rig elections. But I ask the question: Nigeria is a country, at last count, we say about 206 million people. The question to ask: how many politicians are contesting elections in Nigeria today? Are they up to 1 million? Across all constituencies. Let's even say they are up to 1 million. Let's even say they are 2 million. It's 2 million out of 206 million. It's not less than 1% of the population. Are you saying that you are jeopardizing the collective interest of 99% of Nigerians because you want to target the political class? 1%. Look, even 2 million. There are about 774 local governments in Nigeria. And okay, let's say there are 350 House of Rep members. There are 109 senators. Together, that's about 459.
Okay.
You had a single president. You had 36 state governors. You are still less than 500. Maybe the buck will not come from the House of Assembly. Are you saying that because of less than 1% of Nigerians, that's why you're putting the entire country out? And Nigeria, the CBN, in all its efforts, it can also appreciate the fact that it has done poorly. If originally it says that the reason why you had this, want to introduce NAIRA is that out of 2.8 trillion, you have only about 500 billion, 2.8 trillion in circulation, you have only about 500 billion within the banking sector. What I want to suggest is that if cashless policy has failed woefully, a CBN that has failed in its ability to push its cashless policy is now enforcing a NAIRA redesign policy to take effect within a 3-month period.
Like a stick and carrot approach?
Within 3 months, something you can only achieve in 5 years. You're trying cashless policy. You're now trying to, a policy you put in place, cashless policy, 5 years, you're not able to achieve it.
And this harms the economy?
It does, without doubt. Everybody knows, even the fear we're talking about. Are you transferring? Are you using your app to pay for fear? You are still using NAIRA notes to pay.
But Dr. Presley said it was a beautiful policy.
No, I agree. No, you see, the point is,
It's a policy, but the actualization,
the implementation of it.
How you are going about implementing it. It's not the fact that we are. It's a run in the mill, normal process, periodic change in the kind of the national currency. That's a normal thing to do. And the CBN is doing what is within its powers to do. The issue is how they are going about implementing it. Now look at it, for example. How many banks have this new NAIRA notes? The redesigned NAIRA notes? How many banks have it?
Even the banks that have it, they seem to be holding it. The officials seem to be holding it. Because we have reports where they say that the DSS is even after some officials in this regard.
Ibrahim Momo went around banks yesterday, bank branches yesterday. I went around bank branches in Ubowo up to the University of Benin. It is only one bank. I don't know if I should mention names. Because I went to several banks. I went to Access Bank, I went to First Bank, I went to FCMB, I went to Union and UBA, all in Ubowo. I went to Polaris Bank. Then I entered the University of Benin. I was at Fidelity Bank, Zenith Bank, First Bank. They have all this one have branches, and then Islamic IBC Bank. Zenith Bank, I don't know if I should mention it because I think IPO should know.
Of course.
It was only for about 1 hour. The ATM in Zenith Bank, University of Benin, was working. Only 1 hour. And there was a mass queue. The only one bank that paid for upward of 2-3 hours was Islamic IBTC and the Fidelity Bank.
What about Wema? Even Wema?
Yeah,
also paying.
I didn't go to Wema.
Okay.
So I can call Wema is off the road. I didn't go to Wema. I went to those ones along the road. So, and then when you come to town, you from Union Bank to UBA, now look at what the CBN has said. He said if anybody wants to withdraw over the counter should get 100 naira or less denomination. That all payments should be made via the of new naira notes made by the
ATM.
the ATM. In all those banks in Ugbo, how many of them had ATM?
And what about the charging rates? Does it remain the same?
It's not even charging. It is not available.
Okay.
People are saying that, okay, you want us to start using new naira notes. Are they even available? If the CBN is not able to ensure, you cannot blame the banks for your own failure. You can blame the federal, the deposit money banks, the commercial banks, that they are giving it out and block to politicians or whatever. But the reality is that if you are insisting that the common, my interest is not the 1% politicians. It's not my interest. My interest is that 9% non-politicians. How are CBN effectively catered for that? Are the bus drivers able to get the new naira notes? Are the market women able to get the new naira notes? Are the petrol filling station attendants able to get new naira notes? Are the commoners, the teachers, the food sellers, the pedestrians, the students, are they able to get? The answer is a resounding no.
Okay. Thank you. Let's get your response to this. I'll come back to you, Presley, but let's get your response to this, Solomon Idiobe. How do you see this in terms of the 10-day extension? Some have said that there wouldn't have been need for the 10-day extension. Do you feel the same?
Well, it's useless. Because in the first place, like Ibrahim Momo rightly mentioned, it's a fake policy. A fake policy because you told us, do you know how many times you have gone to, I don't know if you have experienced it too, you go to fuel stations, you want to buy fuel, and trying to effect the cashless policy. Let me use your POS. They tell you it's not working. They'll ask you to go to commercial POS vendor before you can come and buy. So if it was your turn, you need to leave the queue. Then otherwise, those behind you will almost eat you raw. You go to, except major superstores, supermarkets, and you know that dispenses with a POS.
Yeah.
You go to a normal shop and you want to do transfer, they tell you they don't take transfer. Let me use POS. I don't use POS, I need cash. And you are affecting cashless policy. You have not been able to achieve it like Ibrahim said in the last 5 years. Your banks are not working. Look at it. You are doing cashless policy. If I take my ATM from Zenith Bank, for instance, to Fidelity Bank, and for whatever reason, no fault of mine, your ATM traps it, it will be perforated, and I'll be made to pay extra charge at my bank to get another ATM. It's not my fault. It's not me who asked your ATM to
the ATM machine.
Yes, the ATM to withdraw my card.
Yes.
But I'll be made to pay. Charges, unnecessary charges are deducted at will. Now, coming back to the issue of the redesigned Naira note. Look, first of all, at a point, and I still see that it's going to cause a lot of problems because we have been told now that there are a lot of fake new Naira notes in circulation. Because in the very first place, the Naira note looks like a washed note in the very first instance. It doesn't even look attractive. It doesn't even look like what an average person would want. At the point, most traders would not even want to collect the new Naira note. Now, since on Friday, even filling stations, I was buying fuel on Saturday, rain oil attendant told me they are not going to collect the old Naira note. Give me your POS machine. They said it wasn't working, that they have low battery. So how do I now purchase fuel? Haven't stayed on a queue. You get it? So these are part of the issues. You want to, I was in the banking hall last week. I went to make a transaction and I want to draw. They said no, they don't have. I said, I'm not going to collect old note. The cashier told me, say, bros, why you did bother yourself? I'm just, we started interacting. He said, no, waiting person get, you go give. We no get. Clear that we no get. Now waiting person get, you go give. We no get. So that's when I was say, maybe February, but no, we don't have. Then as at last weekend, precisely Thursday and Friday, like he said, because we are trying to monitor bank dispensing the notes. The banking hall were filled up. They said they only are doing collections. Now, that I got to GT Bank. GT said they only have one of their machines dispensing the new Naira note, and you are not allowed to take more than 20,000 Naira in a day. And by the time we got outside to check, the queue was worse than a normal marketplace. So, what are the issues? And the same you is telling us that it is a do or die. You must get the new Naira note. If you cannot provide, Philip, you are asking me to go do, you are sending me on an errand. You are supposed to take responsibility for my movement, especially when I'm doing your bidding. That's the normal. Now you are asking me to do something for you. You are also asking me to pay the price.
Okay, well,
the Nigerian people are just a victim of bad governance, irresponsive governance, disrespectful.
There's no need to say
because it's painful at this point.
I understand. I understand how you feel about this.
How can a government, Philip, less than about 3 weeks to the general elections, have the Nigerian people suffer fuel crisis, suffer electricity that we refer to as power, suffer currency issue, suffer so many issues. And you think that, look, for some of us who feel that the government of Nigeria is just having a plan to create this problem in a view to have an extension for the elections or do what they wish. Otherwise, I do not see a sane government who, with less than or about 3 weeks to the general elections, you are strangulating the Nigerian people with your cashless policy, with your new currency note, with the issue of fear.
Okay, let's round up.
The issue of fear, the issue of fear has created so much suffering.
I'll come to you, Solomon. Let's round up this.
Yes.
What do you see with what has been said so far? Okay. What do you see as the way forward and how to bring about respite in this direction?
Okay.
In 1 minute.
Let's separate policy from policy implementation. Like you said the policy is useless. Now the policy itself is not useless.
It's not useless.
It's the way CBN is going about it.
It's the implementation that is wrong.
Yes.
In your opinion.
If you listen to what I said, I didn't say that the policy was useless.
Okay.
No. When we talked about the policy, you had already opined that the policy was a good one.
Yeah.
Our issue is that we do not have issues with the policy.
Yes.
We have issues with the implementation. It's useless. Okay. Because when your implementation is not effective, your policy is worthless.
Okay. That's your perspective.
Then he talked about the politician, about 1% politicians, that how can CBN at this time, change the Naira note to curb corruption at the level of politicians. That's about 1%.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. Do you know the impact and the influence of those politicians? He is referring to that 1%. Their impact is about 99% on the citizen. So you cannot separate the influence. These politicians are so powerful that they control virtually everything. That if a single order, for example, they don't care who's us. Take out this person, they will do that with peanuts. What the CBN is doing now is trying to wield the power of this politician by controlling the volume of money they have at their disposal they can throw.
Less than 3 weeks to election.
Whether it's election is closed, hold on. I am not saying all that.
No, that's the point.
Let us look at also the beauty, the intention, the genuine intention of the CBN. To control. Now, if you are saying, okay, close to election now, if you allow the normal flow of money to go on, this election, they gave a lot of people will bamboozle, will be deceived with peanuts. They will say their vote, they will say their conscience. If this money is scarce at the level of these politicians, our people will be waiting and they are not forgetting it. Don't go to the queue and do the right thing.
Don't forget the
give me 1 million.
You have the floor. Go ahead. In less than a minute.
If CBN is genuinely after this politician, I made mention of security number in the notes.
Better.
I made mention of security number in the notes.
Okay.
Now, with this new Naira note going into circulation now, if a particular serial number is given to a bank A. I've given the example before. Another serial number is given to bank B and bank C. A particular denomination of that serial number is no longer found in bank A. CBN can comfortably track and trace those notes to a particular individual or banks that sanction the bank to bring out the individual whose the flow has gone to. With that, they can be able to checkmate the excesses of these politicians.
You're making a good point.
The issue of bullion VAR, but the question is, will CBN have the capacity?
Okay, thank you.
What's then the use of BVN? Is it not to be able to know your flow, outflow of cash and how many accounts? Because
this money has already gone out.
No,
they've gone out
with your BVN.
With your BVN. When I mean
analyze this, we can continue.
If you have 5 accounts,
all right, thank you.
They are able to know and
thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Solomon. We can't continue to analyze this without getting to a point where we say, okay, let's provide solutions to it. Like the way what we're saying now, we just need to give some time to the CBN to see how this issue can be resolved. But let's quickly go to petrol scarcity. Now, we are having too many challenges as a people of this great country. And just now we heard reports about protests that took place in Benin yesterday and some parts of the country. Now, how do you react to this issue of fuel scarcity and how the protests really are panning out? Ibrahim.
Well, very quickly, there are 3 layers I'm looking at it from. One is the fact that Nigeria, as a net exporter, net producer and exporter of crude oil, has no business. It should not be thinkable. It should not be imagined that with that same country, when it comes to refined petroleum products, should suffer any kind of shortage or scarcity. That is the reality we are seeing. Well, we could say, yes, the government tried in the previous years, but the reality is that no job is finished until it is done. If in the 8th year we didn't have a scarcity, then we can say, yeah, but with the government is still in place and there's a scarcity. That's the first level. So Nigeria, being a net producer and exporter of crude oil, petroleum products, has no business experiencing scarcity, at least at the downstream oil sector level. Number 2 is that these oil products, these refined petroleum products, are distributed through at the level of the downstream oil sector at the major market, the NNPC Limited, the major marketers, and that's Monan, and then IPMAN, the independent marketer, the independent marketer, we can say minor marketers too. Now, the reality we are seeing is that this, at the level of the NNPC, we are still getting a good level of price across the country. At the level of major marketers, we are still getting the correct price, or at least relatively normal price of dispensing across the country, including Benin, including Edo State. But at the level of the independent marketer, IPMAN, we are seeing a colossal level of sabotage, a colossal level of profiteering, a high level of cheating of the common man. And it appears that there is a lack of monitoring of this sector by the relevant authorities. And people have averred to the fact that perhaps it is because, in law they say, nemo judex in causa sua. You cannot be a judge in your own cause. Because when you have people who are also invested, who are also participants in the heists, in the corruption going on, and then those are the policymakers. What I've heard, though I'm yet to confirm, is that there are some people in high places, even in the government of the state, who are owners who are members of the independent petroleum marketers. And so as a result of that, you cannot harm yourself by putting a policy. So even when we are hearing, people are saying that the reason why this is like this is that those who should monitor, those who should ensure, who should enforce compliance, are themselves part of the people who are selling at 500, 400, or wherever. So when you now have a whereby the judge is a participant in the heist that is going on, so you're not going to get results. So that's the second. And then the final level is that I was in Lagos over the weekend, and I can tell firsthand, Ibrahim Momo is putting it on public record, that I bought fuel for 190 in Lagos.
How was the queue?
Everywhere you have queue.
Okay.
Everywhere, even in Benin.
Yeah.
Even those places are saying 500 naira, so you are seeing queues there. It is not to my knowledge, it's not as if the products are not available. They are making it difficult. In Benin here, because they are inflating the prices. And some people who don't want to buy, who refuse to be extorted, have to stand on long queues. If you go to the NNPC in the Sapler Road, you are going to see the queues goes round, even up to the DSS police headquarters.
All right. Let's look at the protests and see what it seems to address. We had protests in Benin, and you are a civil society activist. Now, what could you say is the specific demands, on the protest ground?
The demands were clear. That the suffering of Edo people was becoming too much. That people were hiding under the artificial scarcity created to inflict pains on the common Edo people. You know, the issue of fuel scarcity shot up over 100% transportation fare across Benin City. It's affecting the price of foodstuff and every other thing, coupled with the fact that in the last few days, the electricity distribution company in Edo has been very funny with the supply of electricity. Now, major small and medium scale enterprises depend on this same fuel to power their production or their sales. For instance, those who do cellophane production, pure water production, rely on this petroleum product to power their generators. And then it's no longer available. The queues, is unbearable. Obviously, when you buy at an exorbitant price, your cost of production will shoot up. And then your cost of also sales will also shoot up.
Of course, yes.
So it gradually was grinding activities in Edo. And then the organized society organizations, alongside the students' union, student groups and youth groups in Edo met and then resolved that there was a need to tackle the issue head on. With government, especially we were not hearing from the Edo state government. We had a suspicion, without fears, that because some of the persons in government were involved in oil marketing, and that was why government in the first place was not interested. And so we decided to take the bulls by the horn.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a challenge, and then we decided to launch out. That was why you saw the protests yesterday. The demands were just clear.
Okay.
Edo state government should at least come forth, make a position, because at a time we used to know how much fuel comes into Edo. We used to know how many tankers.
Where were they going to?
Which of the filling stations had fuel? At what price? These were some of the things we're expecting government to do. But as God will have it, the government, before even the protest, had already reached out to say there was no need for the protest. They said, no, we'll still do it. So we had to engage government at that level. There was a meeting yesterday chaired by the Commissioner for Energy, Uzamere, where we had the IPMAN, major marketers, DPRO, and all that. So while we're doing the physical street engagement, we're also doing the intellectual engagement with government. And at the level I can assure you now, and I can tell you, that at yesterday, you saw the government gave out a press release on based on the results or the outcome of the meeting. Okay. We are sure that by today, we are going to have a lot of tankers of fuel coming in. And we are also saying that we go back to that same, yes, the state government said they don't want to set up taxes because it becomes like a juicy conduit pipe for some persons to make money and do diversions. Fine, but part of the agreement yesterday is to the effect that they must set up a monitoring team that must monitor these fuel stations that we have fuel. Okay. At the end of today, I'm sure you will be reached, the different media houses will be reached to letting you know the petrol stations that we have fuel and where you can get it, so that will also, if Ibrahim Momo knows that 3 filling stations along Ugbo has petroleum products, you understand? and they are not selling, then the committee are also going to be empowered to ensure that they sweep on them.
Okay,
so these are
in as much as these are quite laudable, but we are also looking at where some are criticizing protests in this direction, where they have to block the expressways and bring businesses to a halt. Now, I just think that alone is also worse than the issue.
Yes, yes.
Like in Sape Road axis, for instance, it was totally blocked.
That's why today there was supposed to be a protest. We did a press release yesterday that there will be no protest for today, because we discovered that the issue of the petroleum petrol issue was a major sentiment among every Dick and Harry. You understand? Bus drivers, conductors, wheelbarrow pushers, market women, everybody is affected by the issue of lack of petroleum product and the hike. So we discovered that if we continue, it might be hijacked. Rather than correcting the issues, we'll be inflicting more pains
of course,
on the populace, because at the point, the organized civil society will not do a protest and block roads and create more pains on the commoner. But because of the massive crowd that came out, and people do not sometimes also know how to express their anger. For instance, it was a crowd that there were bonfire tires, people burning tires. That was not the activity or an action carried out by the civil society.
Are you saying that it was out of the control of the civil society?
No, it wasn't. That's why I'm telling you that as at the point while we're doing this, we now discovered that some persons were trying to take advantage of the situation. And so, like I told you, while some of us were on the streets engaging House Assembly government on the issue, some were already with IPMAN, DPRO, and trying to also engage at that level. You understand? So people haven't heard that civil society was coming out to do a protest, wanted to hijack the take up advantage of the opportunity to also do theirs. And that is why we are saying the idea of protest was not to create, or is not to create more pain on the already pain Edo State people. But it's just to register the grudges, the grievances of Edo people to the House of Assembly and Edo State government. And like I said, they are already started. Like you see that Edo State Assembly already set up a formal committee. Before the formal committee was already being set up, we already had also started engaging the major actors in the oil business. For instance, we also got to know that at a point, the major independent marketers attacked DPRO, whose duty was to regulate sales and monitor distribution. You understand? So, at this point, we discovered, because, okay, without fears, I can even mention, that at a point, it became a tug of war between us and especially the IPMAN, because they said they buy at exorbitant price. And the only way they can sell is to sell above 500 naira per liter. So before you can sell above 500 naira per liter, you tell us your purchasing price. You can't buy for at 200 naira or 220, and you're selling at 500 naira.
Even Lupeng reported that they even buy at 133 naira.
No. You see, they keep lying, and so for us, there is respect.
Okay.
We are seeing hope.
All right.
Because now all the major actors have been brought to the table. I can also assure you that this morning there's also going to be a repeat and a review of yesterday's meeting, and then so
let's look at ways to really tackle protests. Basically, if protests are peaceful, it will bring about the best of results, and is one of the ways of agitating demands. But most times we have a challenge where these protests are taken over or hijacked by disgruntled elements. Now, this happens to be a challenge, and we can't forget easily the hashtag #EndSARS protest that brought us to a huge setback, which we wouldn't want to go on that journey again. Now, Ibrahim Momo, what do you see? How do you want, what do you think can be done in terms of managing crowds and tackling protests from escalating?
Well, I think that, first of all, what you are seeing is a lack of preparedness, a lack of understanding, of the process of, reforming society. What you are seeing that in this post-modernist era that we are, that everybody is like the Me Too era. Everybody, whatever I think is what I think is right. That is what is right. Whereas in the previous epoch, in traditional society or in the scientific society, what you can see is that you have to, it's either you are trained to think or behave in one way, traditional society, or as a product of your research, you are able to ascertain that, okay, this is the best way to act in the scientific society. But in the postmodernist era, everybody is now, me too, whatever I think is right is right. So you are seeing most of the protests nowadays. One of the reasons why you have hijacks is the fact that people their validation itself, they are the ones who validate their actions. A child will get up in the morning, does not believe the father. In a traditional society, it is unacceptable. In a postmodernist world, it is normal. In fact, the child is even expecting her to greet him. You want to serve your parents, for example, or an elder, you're supposed to use your right hand. That's a traditional society. But in today's world, if you don't want to, with your left hand, go. So you are saying that values, norms in society is changing or is degenerating. And it is in that light that you are seeing some of this hijack taking place. Solomon spoke to the fact that one of the challenges with protests in the contemporary sense is the fear of hijack.
Yeah, the fear of hijack, yes.
Yeah, yes. What you see is that sometimes you have good intentions, you want to highlight or mainstream a challenge in society. For example, the issue of pump price of petroleum products. What you now get out of it is that some people use that reason to loot shops.
Of course. We had that challenge during the #EndSARS protest.
And even yesterday, I'm told that Upper,
okay,
there was an attempt to burn down a filling station. Well, eventually burned down a filling station at Upper Sapomba area.
Okay.
So it is that responsibility, that civil society ought to now take upon themselves. That how do we ensure that in the process of mainstreaming,
it doesn't escalate or
it's not allowed to hijack
okay,
or miscreants don't take charge.
Let's get your viewpoint, because you seem to be a bit apprehensive or agitated when I made mention of the #EndSARS protest, and we want to go on that road again where we had setbacks of protests being hijacked. What's your opinion in that regard?
Where we find ourselves now is regrettable. Honestly, regrettable. It's unfortunate and despicable. First, if we have a responsible system in place, we won't be where we are today.
Of course.
Let's talk about the issue.
But do we need our protest to escalate?
Yes, protest is normal. It's part of the
right.
It's a right.
It's an
Shouldn't it be controlled?
It is.
No.
Now, see, like what he said yesterday.
Yes.
If people hijack the protest, it's the failure of the government to provide security for them. Okay. Let me tell you this. In the advanced society, a protest note was given a day, not just that day, a day before. It is the responsibility of government to provide security along the adjoining roads, wrong. Locations were given. You should be there. On the protest ground, people like he was trying to defend the fact that, we don't want to inflict pains on the masses. You are not inflicting pains on the masses.
All right.
If our system, our road networks are working, a particular road that was being worked during the protest, if adjoining roads were working, that would be an exit route.
Okay, but not that we can as well say.
Unfortunately, once protest is mentioned, the mindset of our people in government is, they want to inflict pains.
Okay, no, that we can as well say that we notice the presence of law enforcement agents in some specific areas in Benin, for instance, even at Main Gate War Campus.
Exactly.
We noticed heavy presence of security men. And in your protest that was embarked on yesterday, were you not with
yes, we were, because we served the notice to all the security agencies.
Good. Okay.
They were with us. But let me tell you, there were certain, that's the point I was trying to make, there are certain areas where we didn't announce as locations.
As locations.
Yeah, that people wanted to not take advantage because the issue of the fuel price is biting on everybody here. Right. So people were trying to now vent their anger. And in venting anger, you're also venting it on the man who's not responsible for the misfortune.
All right, so are you saying in the nearest future there could be another round of protests?
No, for instance, we gave an ultimatum to Edo State government. It's not even yet 24 hours. They've started trying to...
So there's respite?
Yes, for instance, this morning, as at 6 a.m., some persons already started blocking the highway. We had to mobilize ourselves including student union leaders within Ubowo,
okay,
you know, to come out with the police
and disperse the crowd.
Yes, and the bonfire has already been set along this Ubowo Express as early as 6 a.m.
All right, thank you. Thank you. We hope to see more of that.
The point I'm making is that we are coordinating. We are doing our own best. We also want to make government understand that most times when we announce protest, it's because they have refused to listen. Because before we announce protest, Philip, would have made attempts to reach out to government.
All right, thank you.
But they always have their doors closed.
Thank you. We've established our points enough. Thank you.
Mr. Philip, let me quickly play this on record.
You have less than 10 seconds.
Exactly. Let me flow. It's not about the availability of the product only, about the price.
About the price.
Please follow up on the price. Very important. The price, as far as I'm concerned, the price has not been increased. If Lagos is dispensing, Abuja is dispensing at the a rate less than 200, it will be coming. All right. Why they just do it all? So I don't know. Let's focus on the price.
We'll see how that's going to pan out. Big thanks for coming. We'll see how that is going to pan out. We are pressed for time. Big thanks, Ibrahim Momo, and big thanks, Dr. Presley, and of course, Solomon Ijogbe. A lot I know you would have said, but I think we're going to express this in subsequent discussions. This will call it a wrap on today's discussion. Next is insurance segment. Do stay.